Hello, hello, hello. It's Peg here. I just want to tell you that this is part of the August Collaborative Arts. Oh dear. Anyway, it's CAC, and I'm not sure what the hashtag for this month is because I'm doing this ahead of time because I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to go to the Irish Hoolie in Dubuque, and I'm going to post this so that it comes out in time for you guys to see it for the collaboration, but not sure if that's really going to happen. Anyway, this month, the month of August, is about animals. So I'm going to work with a crane. One of the things about living in the Midwest is you get to see the sandhill cranes, especially if you go out towards Nebraska, which is the western edge of Iowa, which is where I am. You're going to see a lot of sandhill cranes. We get to see blue heron and a lot of different birds. So, and I really like birds. We feed birds here. Anyway, what I want to do for you today is show you how to make little books like this. These are great little gift books. This is something that you can throw into your bag if you just, need something to jot people's phone numbers down on or whatever you want to do with these. But we're working with some handmade type papers, and the property of this is it's very lightweight, almost cloth-like. You can see that it has some tooth to it, a lot of fiber running through there, a lot of flexibility, but that's good because it makes it really strong even though it's real thin. And so that's what I'm looking for when I am putting something like this together. It makes a good cover and a pretty cover because especially these Asian ones I thought would be good with the sandhill crane. Not sure which way is up on here. Guess I'll have to make a decision about that. Eventually, I think they go this way because that looks like a down. Anyway, what you're going to need is some kind of small book. And these are just padded pieces of paper. You can use the Post-it kind. You can get little pads of paper. And you can actually take paper into your Kinko's or someplace like that, and they will pad paper for you in the size that you want. It's just glued, or you can use rubber cement and pad your own paper. I'm not into padding paper, so I get mine pre-done. And the other thing that you need are your cover boards, which are just slightly larger than your pad of paper. You can see it just kind of peeks out, maybe not even 1/8 of an inch. And you need 2 of these. You need a spine. You need 2 end papers. These are the papers that you use on the inside here that go in the cover. Okay? So that's what they call end papers. And so you can see this is a book I've already done, and it's just a real small, well, maybe 1.5 inch, 2-inch book. This one's going to be a little bit bigger than that because I want to put this crane image on the front of it. So let's get started. What you want to do is use some good adhesive. Now, there are things like Perfect Paper adhesive. This is a matte adhesive from US Art Quest. I've used this a lot. For something like this, you don't need real heavy bookbinding materials. This is what, if you're going to do bigger books and paper projects, you may want to invest in, is this PVA. This is a professional quality adhesive for bookbinding projects. And I'll show you. It's not terribly expensive. I think this one was $4, but I've had it a while. And it maybe I can get it out. Well, I'm not going to deal with that. We're going to use this one because I know I can get into this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to coat. Open this up. I'm going to coat. None of my glue wants to work. Oh well. The joys of filming. Okay, I'm going to coat this real well. Make sure I cover everything because I want it to stick everywhere. And I'm also going to put a coat on the paper, just to make sure I get a good adhesion. Okay, and place that down. I'm just leaving a little edge all the way around that piece of chipboard, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just make sure I get good coverage on these things. And put some on the chipboard. And like I said, you can use any size. Just make sure that you leave about 1/8 of an inch all the way around, because you don't want your paper sticking out further than the cover for your book. And you also, when you're cutting the piece of paper for this, you want to make sure that you leave room for the spine. So, you know, when you cut your piece, make sure that you've got room in here for the spine, and you want about 1/8 of an inch spacing in between two, because that spine is going to flex, and you have to have room for that to flex in there. So, put some adhesive down there. Probably got enough on here to coat this with, since this is a sponge and it soaks it all up. Okay, so line those up, leave a little space, and make sure we get those down good. Okay, now the next thing is I want to turn these corners, and I'm going to use a bone folder, and I'm going to adhere those corners down, make sure I get those tucked in, because we don't want raw edges sticking out on the corners. And that's really important to, you know, making your book look nice, like you cared, and not having gaps. And so I'm just creasing these papers and making sure that they're sticking down well in the corners. Can you see my corner? Okay, moving on to the next one. Anyway, I was telling you about the cranes and the blue heron and stuff. We have a little pond down at the river. I live pretty close to the Cedar River. Luckily, we haven't had floods lately. And I see all kinds of birds, the egrets, the cranes, sometimes I see the gulls that are headed to the Great Lakes, because they'll get off course and come through here too. And that's kind of fun to see all those different kinds of birds. Now we have our normal birds, which are regional here, you know, the chickadees and the nuthatches and all of those kinds of things. But it's always fun to see those larger birds, because we don't always get to see those. But when they do come in, and I can see them wading down there along the river, or I've even seen some, what are they called? Ones with a big bill. I'll have to look that up. It's been a while. Okay, so now I'm just folding the edges over and making sure that I crease that where it's going to fold, and get a nice edge going around this way. And then we'll do the other side. If you haven't done any small books like this before, try it out. I really enjoy it. It's something that doesn't really take a lot of thought. As long as you get your measurements going pretty good, you're okay. Okay, get that down. crease. Make sure you're creasing. Okay, and then the sides. Now, I have done this with like Yoo-Hoo glue, which is a glue stick. You can use that. I don't know if it holds up quite as well. I know that this type of glue is going to hold. I mean, you saw that little book I was flipping through. I used this perfect paper adhesive. And this comes in matte and gloss, so I'm using the matte because I really don't want anything glossy on here. But you can get it either way, and it's a really good paper adhesive. I've been using it for years, maybe 20. So I can tell you from vast experience working with it, it does a good job. Okay, so can you see how those corners turn out? Okay. And we've got plenty of flexibility in the middle. Okay. Now while that's kind of drying a bit, we're going to turn our attention to the end papers. Now, if you look at this, the end paper looks like it's almost big enough to cover. Well, that's because what you're doing is you're folding this piece of paper in half. And when you do that, it's about the same size as the piece of chipboard that you used for the cover. Just slightly, you know, maybe 1/8 of an inch smaller all the way around. So you're going to take 2 of these. You're going to have 2 of these pieces of paper that fit on the inside, and you're going to fold them in half. And what you want to do, now you could use the glue here, but what I really like is this Sukwang tape. You can use, you know, for the small one, I use this real narrow stuff. And for this one, I think I can use this because it's a little bit bigger book. And I'm just going to put a strip of this right down the folded edge. And I'm going to take my scissors and trim that off evenly. And I'm going to do that on this one too. See if I can do this without getting it stuck to myself. That's always a trick. Okay, so now that's all you need for right now is that it's about, I think that's maybe, is that 1/2 inch? No, I don't know. Don't have my, there's my ruler. No, that's about, yeah, it is 1/2 inch. By golly, I have a good guesser, don't I? Okay, so 1/2 inch. Now, here's your book. Here's your pad, or not your book, your pad of paper. Okay, and the glue is on this side. So what you want to do is peel this back, and where it's glued on this edge right here, that's where you want to place that glue to glue. So this is your end paper. Okay, you're going to flip it over. You're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Glue to glue, glue on this edge, glue down here. Gonna put it right there. Okay. And do it straight if you can. Yeah, that would be good, Pig. Okay, so now what we've got is we've created our end papers that are going to go inside the book, and it's going to hide the uglies that live in here. Okay, so we're gonna cover the edge of this, and because that stick-weighing tape works so well, I'm going to use that on the inside here rather than the glue, just because, I mean, you can use either one. It really isn't going to make a lot of difference. It's up to you, but I like this because I think it holds pretty darn good, and I don't like to mess around waiting for the glue to dry, and especially when you're closing the book on something and you don't know what's seeping out someplace else. So I'm going to use this, and I just line it up. Now you can get this stick-weighing tape a lot thicker than what I have here. Actually, I have some. Maybe I should grab that. That would be a wise thing, wouldn't it? Well, I don't always think about that before I start a project. So let me grab that. As you can see, you can get it in all different kinds of sizes. Now, this one's a little bit big for that right now. So I'm going to go to this one, which is probably 3/4 of an inch. And catch this edge here. So I have seen a lot of really cool birds. Like when we went to Colorado and we were up in the mountains, I saw a blue jay like I had never seen before. Just the most vivid blue. And the other thing that we saw there were these whistling, what do I call them? Whistling hummingbirds. You guys got whistling hummingbirds? They are the coolest. We were we were going to take a train up to Pikes Peak, and we were in the station there waiting, and they had feeders out there, and these hummingbirds were everywhere, and they whistled. And when we were in Texas, there were these birds. They were called cuckoo chocolata or something like that. Never had seen the likes of them, but the trees would be full of them. Now I'm going to kind of line this up so that it's like right kind of in the center. You don't want anything over, you don't want anything hanging or gluing in the middle. It's just like a book. You want it not to have glue in the very middle. But you can see now that my edges are covered, that this is not glued in the middle here because you want that free. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so birds. Yeah, really cool animals. We put feed out all winter long because we get so many little birds that are cold and hungry here. So we have our favorites, of course, are like the nuthatches because they're hanging upside down. If you guys have nuthatches, watch them. They're just hysterical. I think they're kind of like clowns. They're, you know, they'll climb right down inside of my feeder to get at what they want. And we have wrens in the spring and summer. And they usually have 2 batches of babies, which is fun. Of course, the standards, the robins and, you know, all of that, the blue jays, the cardinals. But I think my favorite are the chickadees. They're just the cutest little things, and they're in and out so fast. It's just you don't see them. They're there and then they're gone. And I plant flowers to attract birds. So like I'll put out coral bells and things like that that are going to bloom and have blossoms up and down the stalk, so that the hummingbirds will come in and feed off of the nectar. And in the evening I can sit out on the stoop and I can watch the hummingbirds coming in. Okay, now I'm going to line this up before I close the book, or try to anyway. Okay, and there we go. And now what you want to do is over here along the spine, just like a good book does, you know, it's got these little creases right here along the spine. And that's that space that you left for your book to fold, okay? And there you have it. You have a cute little book. Okay? Now, something that I was thinking about when I decided to use the crane and decorate this is what am I going to do with this? I saw this and I thought, well, that's pretty. You know, I can color that up and then I could mount a crane on top of it. But then I thought, well, that covers an awful lot of that paper, and I'm not a real fan of covering all of that up. And then I started thinking, well, what would gold look like on there? Well, it kind of washes out. That's not what I was looking for a crane. And then I thought, well, I know you guys have seen this new paper. This is Tim Holtz Ideology. Sorry, he's trying to talk back to me. This is Tim Holtz Ideology, and it's kind of a glitter sheet, and I thought, well, it's golden. That would be pretty on there. Well, I found out a little something about this. I was going to emboss it, okay? And you can see what this looks like. You can see the glitter on here. It's an adhesive back, so I could just peel it off and stick it down. And I thought, well, that would be pretty cool, pretty easy to do. Well, I embossed it all right, and look what happens. It melts just like embossing powder. Can you guys see that? So the shine kind of goes away. Now, it's not a bad look. It's got kind of a nice shimmer, not quite like the glittery stuff, but that wasn't what I expected from this. I had no idea that you couldn't melt this stuff. And I don't think there's anything on here that says anything about don't heat. So warning, warning, let you guys know about that one. So what I ended up doing, I had some papers from Hero Arts. These are Kosum Florals. It's a 6x6 paper from Japan, Hanko design. And there you go. It's Hero Arts papers. And they come in these really pretty colors. Okay. And it's pretty thin. Okay. Pretty thin stuff. And I thought, well, that's nice, but it's going to be difficult. It's still pretty sturdy paper, but it's going to be difficult to emboss. And so what I did was I glued it down to a piece of, what do they call this stuff? This is like the manila folder. Okay, I glued it down to some manila folder. And then I did some embossing. And what you do, now for those of you who've never embossed before, this is a little bag that's got some powder. You can use cornstarch, you can use baby powder. It just makes this so that the static goes away. You can actually use dryer sheets for that. And then this is my rubber stamp, and I'm going to use Versamark ink. And I'm going to stamp on there. This is the ooh-ah. For people who are not stampers and have never embossed before, they all this is what got me into rubber stamping to start with. I went to one of those home parties, and I just went to, you know, make my friend happy. You know how it is. They talk you into doing something, you go do it, and it's like, okay, so another couple $100 and I'm in. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I did, is I went to a home party, and I, you know, before I went, I said, oh, I'm never going to stamp. I'm never going to do this. Yeah, okay. So this doesn't take very long. I'm just going to start my tool. And what you want it to do is just have that glossy appearance without the powder anymore. And then once you've done that, you can cut it out and have your image like this. So I can now glue this little crane right here on the front of my book. And what I might do is, I'm thinking about putting some kind of moon or something behind it. But that's my animal theme book. And I think it'll make a nice little birthday gift for my friend. And I think I've got another book to make. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great weekend. Be sure and watch all of the other people that are doing really cool stuff on the collaborative arts, and you're going to be able to search based on what you want to look at, whether it's books, whether it's stamping, whether it's scrapbooking, whether it's painting or jewelry making. You'll be able to search by your hashtag and get the content that you want. But there's like 300 artists out there doing this, and there will be all kinds of things for you to view. So I hope you enjoy watching, and have a great day.